In this installation vlog, we're going to teach you how to install the Cubase metal shake and slate mount. Download and read the most current installation manual in addition to referencing this video guide from the QuickMount PV website. You can contact our training team by sending an email to tech@quickmountpv.com.
Hello everyone, my name is Carlos Maldonado and I'm with QuickMount PV in Iron Ridge with technical support and training. And today we're going to be talking about our Cubase metal shake and slate mount. Alright, so before I talk about the products, I do want to talk about more about the roofing system. So this is actually a Decra roofing system, but there are also other systems like Gerard, who now is Boral, who also makes these roofing systems, which are a lot more common nowadays. So the way these systems work is you have your roofing construction below it. They're either going to be on battens or they're going to be interlocking. This particular one is going to be on battens, which we'll get into a little more when I remove the shingles. But the main thing I want to point out is how to properly walk on these as well. So when you're walking on these, you don't want to walk on the center. Always want to walk on the nose or the edges of the shingle. So you want to put your foot here or here. And if you do put it on the center, don't put all your weight on it. Just tread lightly so you don't bend these panels because you don't actually have any support below them. So these are actually designed to last 50 to 70 years or longer, depending on where it's installed. So it's important to take your time and work with them efficiently so you don't have to, void any warranties or compromise the roofing system itself. All right, so now I'm going to go over the mounting and the flashing system, which is our Cubase metal shake and slate mount. And then for that, I'm going to remove the panel and just place it over here. So in this case, we're in the training room, so you could obviously see where the rafter is. So we already have the rafter marked and the actual base installed. But this is how it will look when you order the product. You have your actual base, and then you have your post, you have the rack to mount hardware, and it also comes with a grade A bolt that attaches the post to the base itself. Now this system comes with an 18 by 18 aluminum flashing. This one's actually already cut to size to fit this course of shingles, but it does come in an 18 by 18, so you could cut it to size depending on what the course, the exposure of the metal shingle is. And it actually also is malleable, so you can actually mold it to the contour of the different types of metal shingles. So now that we remove the panel, you'll be able to locate the rafter, install the mount into the rafter. Of course, you drill your pilot holes using the 7/32 bit. You put your singlet inside the pilot holes, and then you install a base with a 1/2 inch socket using our 3-inch lag screws that we supply with the product. All right, and one more thing that's important that I want to point out is this grade 8. The grade 8 bolt needs to be installed prior to lagging the base in place. So make sure you always put that in place before you lag the screws in. All right, so now I'm going to show you guys how to find and mark the point of where you're going to actually drill the hole to allow the post to go through the panel and install the post. So in this case, you actually don't have to put the post back in place because it's such a low profile that when I put the panel back in place, you're actually going to use a hammer to just knock around it to show where that indentation is going to be to drill your hole. But there are cases where you're going through different layers of roofing material, or if you're in a counter batten situation where you have your horizontal and vertical batten, then you might need to install the post to allow you to actually have something to hit the metal shingle with to be able to mark your point. Here we go. So I'll put this back in place. And you can already see that it's rocking, and it's indicating that my base is right here. So all you do is you find that point where it's rocking, and then you hit it with the hammer. You have the crest of the base right there. So now I know that I'm going to drill a hole right here, and that's going to allow the post to go straight through the metal shingles and then allow me to do my waterproofing. All right, so I'm going to remove this guy, and now I'm going to drill my hole. All right, so now we're going to be drilling a hole through the metal panels, and to do that we're going to be using a 1.5 inch hole saw. And in this case, I'm going to use a standard hole saw. However, we recommend using a diamond bit hole saw in order for you to be able to make multiple cuts and not exhaust the blade too much. So once again, if you use the proper hole saw, which is a diamond bit 1.5 inches, it'll be a lot smoother and you can use that hole saw multiple times. Okay, so now that we cut the hole, we'll go ahead and replace our shingle back. And as you can see, when you mark the actual metal shingle with the hammer, you could actually cut the hole precise right where the base is going to be. So now I'm ready to slide in my post, or screw in my post, just like this. And then I would just finish it off with some channel lock pliers and do a 1/4 turn or more to make sure it's nice and snug into the base to give you a nice structural attachment. So, like I said, our flashing's already cut to size, and once again, this comes in at 18 by 18. So now what I'll do is I'll just slide it in place. Since this is a low profile metal shingle, you don't really have to do much bending. So you set it nice and flat. You could actually, just for extra protection, you could add a upside down U around the flashing and then also on the perimeters of a compatible sealant. And then also, before you put your EPDM rubber collar, recommend adding a beaded sealant right where the post meets the flashing. And then the collar will slide right over that to protect the seal below, just like this. Now, to finish fully waterproofing the system, you will need to actually purchase additional metal panels. Now, in this case, we actually are going to use a different color. However, it's the same profile. We just didn't have the same color. But what I did is I grabbed a full length panel and I cut it in half. So now I'll be able to use one panel for 2 mounts. So for every 2 mounts, you have 1 panel. And so this panel could be cut either using tin snips or a guillotine designed for metal shingles, which most likely you could rent at a local hardware store. Or another method that has been used in the past is either using a reciprocating saw with a metal blade, or even a grinder with a diamond bit blade, which I'll be using today to be able to cut the actual metal panel around the flashing to properly sandwich it. So what I'm going to do first is line it up so I can get my marks on where I'm going to cut the actual metal shingle. And so I'll line it up to the edge of the cone of the flashing, as you can see here. So you want to give yourself some room. So this is just going to be a rough cut. So now I know that I'm going to be cutting it right around here, and then I'm going to bring it down. And what I want to do is center my metal panel with the flashing to make sure I have enough of the metal panel extending past the edge of the flashing for extra waterproofing. Now here it looks like my cone ends right around there, which is actually works out because it's right at this groove right here. And it looks like it's the same thing on this side, so it's right at the groove right there. Cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a grinder with a diamond bit to just grind it up here to give me my straight cuts, and then I'll finish it off with a regular tin snips. It's important to use your proper safety gear when cutting or grinding. So now that we used our grinder to cut the straight edges, we'll use our tin snips to be able to do the round cut at the end right here. All right, so now we actually have our metal panel already cut and ready to put back in place over the flashing to do our sandwich method. So what you do is you just pop this guy open, slide this right over, and center it. And as you can see, we actually have space, a little bit of space between the cone and the actual metal panel to allow debris and water to properly shed over from this roof panel over to this panel, over the flashing and down its natural course, and not going to go into the penetration whatsoever. So now that you place this guy in, you'll be using your proper fasteners, which we recommend using number 10, at least 2-inch fasteners with a hex head and a sealing washer. And it's important to make sure you have a sealing washer so you can properly seal all the holes. And so it's important, so when you're going into the actual metal roof, you want to go in and then you back out and you go at an angle to make sure you're in the batten. Just like that. And do the same thing on the other side. Alright, so now that you secured the bottom portion of it, now you're able to secure the top portion and do the same thing. The system is not complete, but it's important to make sure that all the rest of the panels that are removed to install the mounts are properly secured and either nailed back down or screwed back down with the fasteners you use to sandwich the flashing. And one thing also, you want to make sure that there's no gaps anywhere between the panels and the sandwich method or any existing panels that you're going to be putting back in place. So you want to make sure they're nice and flush, nice and tight, and that it's properly secured to the batten. A couple more things. Decra does require that each single panel has at least 5 fasteners securing it to the battens. They also offer a touch-up kit that is used in any area where you have exposed metal. So in any cuts, you could actually add the sealant and sprinkle a little bit of granules, and the way it looks is you have your sealant, which is going to be the same color as the roofing material as well as the granules, and so you just add some sealant where you have the exposed metal, sprinkle a little bit of the granules, and you're good to go.